I have a question for you. Do you think that table tennis is more physical or more mental? Think about it for a second. The top players in the world actually agree that table tennis is a large percentage physical and mental. Some think maybe it's 60-40, maybe others 40-60 or 70-30, but they agree that both aspects of table tennis are important. And most of the mental game actually happens between points. During the point, you just let it flow. But between points, it's very important to be able to process the information as far as what just happened, to be able to give yourself those reminders, to be able to encourage yourself, and to be able to come back 6 to 8 seconds later for the next point. So both physical and mental, they are important. Our second principle is that just like any other skill, it needs to be trained. It needs to be trained during practice sessions. It needs to be trained during practice matches, during league matches, and during tournaments. Third principle is that it can be customized. So for my students and for players around the country, not every person is going to have the same mental approach. They're going to have a little bit different process as far as how they process the information, what kind of expressions that they have, how much time they take between points. This is going to be different. So for me personally, you've probably heard me talk about the Think Circle. It's a 4-step process that I use. What just happened, overall tactics, deep breathing, and then the plan for the next point. This is one that I use, but again, this can be customized. But it's important that everybody develop their own routine between points that can help them to play their best. The fourth principle is that if you're winning, you need to be able to continue winning. So you really don't want to overthink it, you just want to give yourself the reminders. Hey, I'm doing a good job moving my feet, keep moving my feet. Hey, I'm keeping him pinned on the backhand. Let's focus primarily at keeping him pinned on the backhand. Wow, I'm generating a lot of spin on my push. He's having trouble with that. Let's continue with that. So if you're winning, you're not really overthinking. You're just reminding and encouraging yourself of what you're doing. If you're losing, you have to be efficient at problem solving. You can't wait till you dump the first game and then talk to your coach. As the match is going, or as point by point by point is going, you need to be efficient at being able to problem solve. Okay? The next is reactions. So basically, there's 3 types of reactions that you can have. You can have the positive reaction, you can have the negative reaction, or you can have the neutral reaction. So a positive reaction might be a fist pump, or a cho, or a yes, or come on. A neutral reaction would just be nothing. And then a negative reaction might be throwing up your hands or saying, oh my, I keep missing that shot every time. That would be a negative reaction. So almost everybody has some of those 3. And the question that you have to ask yourself is, when I have a positive reaction, how does that affect the next point? When I have a neutral reaction, how does that affect the next point? And when I have a negative reaction, how does that affect the next point? Okay? Principle number 7 is you need to differentiate between reasons and excuses. Reasons and excuses. So let's say, for example, you're down 9-2 in the first game, and you're crying the blues because on the first point of that game, a ball came rolling into your court and somehow your opponent didn't give you a let. Okay? So that may have affected you on one point. But you're crying the blues down 9-2 in the first game, at that point caused you to lose. So this is called an excuse, because that caused maybe you to lose 1 point, but what about the other 8 that you lost? Okay? What about the fact of, oh, this guy just gets too many nets and edges? Okay? So if you're down 6-0 in the first game and all 6 points were edges, I would say that's a reason, that's not an excuse. You literally lost 6 points because of edges. Okay? But if you lost the match 3-0 and the guy got 1 or 2 nets in each game, you can't blame that on the nets and edges because there's a lot of other things that happened in there. So an excuse, what does an excuse do? Excuse blinds your eyes to be able to problem solve. You can't problem solve if you keep getting stuck on the fact of, oh, the light's not bright enough, or I don't like the fact that this person is sitting over there watching me, or I don't like the fact that I didn't get a long enough break. I wanted a 1-hour break, and I only had a half an hour break between matches. So an excuse actually blinds your eyes to be able to understand what the real problem is. A reason would be an actual reason why you're losing. I'm losing because his heavy backspin is heavier than I'm used to. I'm not adjusting, and I keep pushing the ball in the net, in the net, in the net. That's a reason, okay? So when you find a reason, typically there's a solution. When you have an excuse, oftentimes there's no solution. So as you're trying to, going back to here, as you're trying to be an efficient problem solver, you have to think, really, what is the reason that I'm losing here, okay? And the last point is remember and forget. So it's critically important that you be able to let that point go and come back on the next point. Oftentimes, we have this great kind of looping rally and you're thinking about all those people that cheered for you and you're focused on that. You're not able to come back for the next point. Or maybe you're thinking about that last point where you just missed that smash. You're not able to come back for the next point. So most of the time, you need to be able to block out or forget the previous point and come back in the moment and focus on this point. However, tactically speaking, you also need to be able to remember, because you have to remember which serves are working, which serves aren't working, where your opponent's strengths and weaknesses, which game patterns he oftentimes plays, and as you're able to remember these tactics, you're going to be able to play tactically better and better and better. Why is it that people don't play tactically better as the match progresses? Because they get emotional. Okay? They start winning and they start thinking about, I'm gonna get 25 rating points for this match, or I might make it to the final and play against so-and-so. And when they start winning, it kind of blinds their eyes to remember what's actually going on here and what are the elements and what I'm doing to continue winning. When they start losing, they start thinking about, I should have changed my rubber before this tournament, or man, I really should have practiced my serve return more, or I wish that so-and-so was over here clapping for me, or I wish this, or I wish that. So the main point is you got to be able to remember and forget. You've got to be able to remember your tactics, but you also have to be able to block out those other things. So as the match progresses, and as you're thinking more and more and more, that's great, but you can't think so much about the benefits of winning and the consequences of losing that it blinds your mind to focus on the tactics. So what are you going to remember? You're going to remember what happened, and you're going to remember the game plan and how to adjust the game plan. What are you going to forget? You're going to forget about those trophies. You're going to forget about those rating points. You're going to forget about going to the finals, and you're going to forget about thinking too much what other people think. I'm Samson Davina. Thanks for watching. For more free articles and videos, make sure you check out my website, samsondavina.com.